Hello everybody, I just watched The Green Knight, and it might possibly be my favorite movie of the year. Which may change since Oscar season is coming up and I've yet to see Dune, The French Dispatch, Last Night in Soho, and many more, but out of the 25 films I've seen this year, I can safely say this ranks above them all. Now, this film was directed and written by David Lowery, and is his second feature film released by my favorite film production company, A24, whose films are usually part of my most anticipated and best films of the year. They have released such masterpieces as Moonlight, The Lobster, Hereditary, The Lighthouse, Lady Bird, Ex Machina, and many more. As a company, A24 distinguishes itself from other production companies by producing films that are usually not very mainstream and take more risks in what stories they tell. They give talented directors with unique visions a place to call home, David Lowery being one such director. My first David Lowery film was A Ghost Story, which is another A24 film I saw back in 2017. A movie that stood out from A24's catalog for being very unconventional, which is saying a lot. I mean, have you seen Swiss Army Man? Mainly because of how different and uncompromising it was to experience. Being beautifully presented with gorgeous cinematography using a rather unique aspect ratio, my first impression of his visual style impressed me immensely. However, I came out of A Ghost Story admiring it more than fully loving it. It is definitely not an easy watch, and most audiences would find it pretentious and even boring. Personally, I still enjoyed the film, but love it or hate it, you can't deny A Ghost Story is pretty special and original. So when I heard that he was making a new film by A24, as well as watched the amazing trailers they've been putting out, I was definitely pumped.
This is almost everything you need to know about the Green Knight. Or as the 14th century epic poem is more formally known, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And I'm your guide, Ralph Ineson.
Now, I knew nothing about Arthurian lore, and I only but watched a basic plot summary of Gawain and the Green Knight. But this film looked like a fantasy film unlike anything I've seen before. Medieval fantasy films haven't had a good comeback in a while, and I'm happy to say that this film did for that subgenre what Hereditary did for supernatural horror, and Blade Runner 2049 did for dystopian sci-fi. All three films are gorgeous, slow burns that rely on subtle storytelling that requires your full attention and immersion. The Green Knight ain't your typical Lord of the Rings fantasy, nor is it a historically accurate medieval epic. The film is simple in story and plot, but complex in the way it is told and how little answers are explained to you. The story is treated just like a legend or myth that had been passed down through the years. Although it isn't an exact adaptation of the original story, it definitely has the spirit and vibe of the classic tale with a few added themes and plot elements to enhance the original story's message. The film's cast does phenomenal work, and Dev Patel carries the film, which is unsurprising when you've seen him in similar spiritual journey type films like Life of Pi. Now, for a fantasy film, it is kept pretty grounded, being that the story includes real-life historical figures, with a few mystical elements to add to the overall mythic quality of the story. The film is definitely in the realm of light fantasy. The magic and fantasy creatures you see aren't very plentiful, but they make a big impact when they do appear in the story. The Green Knight himself looks amazing, with beautiful and convincing practical makeup and a booming voice courtesy of Ralph Ineson.
1 year hence.
One scene in particular involving giants just took my breath away. If you did not already notice by now, the film is shot incredibly well, truly a feast on the eyes. From the misty towering mountains to the dense lush forests, the world of the Green Knight is something to truly behold. The color palette of this film being a standout. You got your blues, your greens, your reds, your yellows, combine that with the varied vistas, you're getting a film that does not get stale visually. What enhanced the visuals immensely were the gorgeous set design, costumes, and makeup, which all felt masterfully crafted, appropriate, and distinct. The musical score was also great, and added a level of angelic, spiritual atmosphere in each scene really well without being overused. The sound design also played a big role in immersing me in the world. Just listen to how the Green Knight moves. The film crafts such an intoxicatingly beautiful fantasy world that I wish I could visit one day. I say visit because despite all the beautiful nature, the film's world is also a very dangerous place with remnants of war, death, and destruction sprinkled here and there, which also adds to the overall story's theme of death and sacrifice to achieve greatness. Now, you have to watch this film in the right conditions in order to get the full experience. This film is not something you can watch casually. There are no action-packed sequences, which is not what the film is going for. It's more of a slow-paced spiritual journey where a man is tested by different situations and obstacles to prove his honor with a lot of symbolism and metaphors to interpret, which includes some dialogue. Conversations between characters, particularly towards the end, can sometimes be cryptic and hard to follow, but don't worry, it isn't Shakespeare. It's more like poetry. For the most part, you are able to follow the dialogue if you're looking at the film in the right perspective. And subtitles. Never forget subtitles. Symbolism and metaphors are everywhere in this film, and it makes for an excellent multiple viewings if you don't mind the slow pacing, which I've gotten used to in films, but some may find tedious. What I can say is that each scene in the film has a purpose in the story. On my second watch, I noticed a lot of foreshadowing and details that cleared up a couple of questions on my first watch, and made me appreciate and relate to the film's story even more. Its themes of honor and integrity spoke to me in a profound way, which makes me think others may relate to this film too, once they've understood what the hell is going on. The message, like the story, is very simple and universal like the original tale was meant to be, but this adaptation adds enough changes and subtlety for the message to resonate further, as well as invite discussion and interpretation, which I believe makes a great film. This can be seen with the film's ending, which may disappoint some people, but actually worked perfectly in my opinion, when you take into account the true goals and intentions of the story. I believe The Green Knight is a film everyone should see at least once, then after some time has passed, watch again for the second time. Because this film is not only a gorgeous masterpiece, but also a very deep and important tale that you may either completely relate to or completely be bored by. And those are the films I want to watch, and want more people to experience. And I'm giving this film a 5 out of 5 stars. Bye bye.